Hi, teachers. This training is going to teach you how you can play board games virtually with your students. This can be a great way to connect with your students. So, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do this. So, you can do this when you have your students in a Google Meet, or you can do this outside of a Google Meet. I will say, in the Google Meet, definitely creates more of that connection of a board game, and it's a little bit easier to navigate within a Google Meet. So the first thing I'm going to start with is I have a board game. This happens to be Snakes and Ladders, or Chutes and Ladders, as it used to be called also. It is set up in Google Slides. You'll notice that my slide deck has 5 of the same board. And part of the reason is when students finish one game, if they want to finish another game, they just go to the next board and they don't have to reset everything. Another big key on game boards in Google Slides, it really helps if the instructions and all of the things that they need, and if there's a players list, it's all in the gray space around the outside. And then the board is either a picture or set as the background of the slide so the board can't be moved or deleted. So kind of setting things up this way helps ensure that students will have a fun game and be able to see everything that they need at once. So I am in my Google Meet with me at the right now. Okay, so I'm in my Google Meet with me, and we're going to go ahead and start playing this game. So to play the game, I am going to make one student or one individual the game leader. So they're the person who's going to share their screen, and then the one who's also going to be handling the dice rolls. And the only reason why we have the dice rolls in control of one person is just so that people aren't making up whatever they rolled. So that way everyone can see that dice when it's rolled. Again, it's really up to you. You could allow students to just tell you what they rolled in the virtual dice, or maybe you're giving them a real die, or they have a real die and they're able to show it to you on the camera. However you want to go about that dice roll is totally up to you. So I have my student here who's going to share their screen. And the really important thing is I have everyone added. I shared the board with both people. So I have the board and the student who's going to be the leader has the board, and they are all editors. So everyone needs to be an editor on the game board so that they can move their own game pieces. Okay, so we're going to have that one student present their screen. And if I go in here, I will notice if the student goes into the game board, I can now see that game board right here, and you'll notice that student has opened the dice tool as well. So at any point, I can go back into the Google Meet and see exactly what's happening, but because we're all shared in the game board, I can also see the game board and what everyone does here. So I'm going to pick my color. I want to be green, and we're going to make the student blue. Okay, so the first thing that happens is I'm in my Meet, and I've got my dice tool. I drag out my die. I only want one, so we're going to delete one of these. And I go ahead and roll my die, and I rolled a 5. So, or the student rolled a 5. I guess the student's going first. So the student moves to the 5th space. Okay, and then I'm going to go back to the Meet. It's my turn. The dice is rolled for me. Let's see, I get a 4, so then I can go into that game board and move my piece to the 4. And you'll notice if the student in the Google Meet goes back here, they'll be able to see where everyone is. But I can also just stay right here and see as pieces are moved here. So if that student then rolls an 8, you'll see that piece move. So you don't have to go back and forth every time, although you would need to go back and forth in order to see the dice getting rolled. It may be easier to have students have their own die, and so then they're just rolling their own die, and you have the Google Meet running in the background so that you can talk to each other and say, hey, I rolled a 6. You hold it up in front of your camera, anyone could look. It's up to you. So the first time you play, I actually suggest if you have some teacher friends or family members, play it virtually first before you play it with students virtually, just so you kind of get the hangout and figure out how you want to organize things with students. So the other way that you could potentially play this game is asynchronously. So that means not everyone's in the board game at once. And it kind of works like Words with Friends or something does on your phone, where a person makes a move and then they let the next person know, and by a certain time that next person has to go. So it goes back and forth. This would obviously take much longer to play, and the chances that people are taking more turns or forgetting to take their turn is highly likely. So think about how you want to do it and what is best for your class. The dice feature is the challenge of chutes and ladders or snakes and ladders. But if you're playing something like checkers, the nice thing is you don't really have to share your screen because you can live see everything in the screen. You don't need a dice to share. You can just go ahead and play right on the board. So have fun with these, customize them to however you think is best fit for your class. Remember, when you're sharing these games with students, two big ways to share is you would want to come up and share if you're sharing through Google Classroom. You would want to make sure that you add the game. We're going to add this game right now, actually. You can add the game to your Google Classroom assignment, and you would either want to choose Students Can View File or make a copy for each student. So if you do Students Can View File, then students would need to open it up, select Make a Copy, make their own copy, and then share it with whoever they were playing with. If you do the Make a Copy for each student, then they would only need to share their copy that they got with whoever their teammates were and make sure those teammates were editors on the game. The last option that you could do is students can edit file. The downside to this option is you would have to create a new assignment for every group of students that were playing this game. So this may be very appropriate for little ones so that they don't have to worry about that share button and figure out making copies, but you would need to create an assignment for each group of students. So this has 6 players, so this would have to be an assignment for 6 players. If you try to put your whole class in Students Can Edit file, then every single student is editing the same exact game board, which there are not enough player markers for that. So again, play around with it, figure out the logistics, see what works best for you, and go from there. Hopefully, you and your students have fun with this.